I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be, a man does what he must. Well, JFK once said, a man does what he must despite the consequences. And what I believe he was speaking to was a man following his purpose and his mission in life and doing what he feels is right, even though other people might protest or might not like it or might not accept it. At the end of the day, the only person that can make you happy is you. So I've got an email here from a viewer who had an issue come up with his girlfriend where he had told her something he was going to do, but obviously his life circumstances changed, and then he made a decision that caused him to have to go back on his word. And so he's kind of wrestling and feeling guilty about doing what he really wants to do because it's aligned with his purpose and his mission in life. So I got a quote that I'd like to share with you. And it says, sometimes life can bring unexpected changes in career, business, and personal relationships that causes current relationships and circumstances to dissolve. Your comfort zone is where you are most uncomfortable. Why? It is how you will grow the most and reach your full potential. It does not serve you or those around you to live a life that is less than you are capable of living. Sacrificing who you are and shelving your dreams in order to please others will only make you miserable and cause you to resent those who you changed for in order to please them. The right people will love and support you no matter what you choose in life. The wrong people or weak people will expect you to sacrifice your own happiness and dreams so they don't feel uncomfortable, despite the fact it makes you miserable. Life is too short to spend it trying to live up to the unreasonable expectations of others. And I wrote about this in my book. There was, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie called Cinderella Man. It was with Russell Crowe. I guess it probably came out about 10 years ago now at this point. And it was based on a true story. And this particular, his character was a retired boxer, and he'd been out of it for like 2 years. And then a promoter shows up at his door and basically says, hey, I just kind of need a warm body for this fight here, and you can make some extra money. And he really needed the money because his heat had been turned off in his house. He had sent his kids away to live with relatives just because they had no money and no food to support them. And so he looked at it as an opportunity to make money and help provide for his family. Well, obviously his wife is like, hey, you haven't fought any or trained at all in 2 years, but he went ahead and did it anyways, and he ended up winning that particular fight. And that set him on the path to ultimately go for the championship. And this was during the Great Depression, and so he was broke and jobs were hard to come by. And so there's a part in the movie, I think it was before the title fight, where she basically says, hey, I don't support this, I don't agree with what you're doing, I'm not going to listen to it on the radio, because this is before television, and I'm not going to show up and support you. And he's like, okay, I still love you anyways, but I have to do this. This is the only way I know to provide for my family and the circumstances that we have. And so he went ahead and did it. And she goes into the church to pray for him, even though she said she wouldn't do it. And it turns out like everybody's in the church from his town is praying for him to be safe and obviously to win. And so even though she said she wasn't going to support him, she actually, I think at the end of the movie, actually goes to where the fight was. And so after he wins, she's there. Even though she told him she wouldn't, and she said she wouldn't support it, he went ahead and did it anyways because he felt it was the right thing for him to do. Plus, he had been a good fighter at one point in his life, and so he did it anyways, just like what JFK said. And sometimes in life, you have to do those things because the worst thing to do is to not do what you feel you need to do in order to please somebody else because you think it's going to make them happy. At the end of the day, when you do that, all you're going to end up doing is making yourself miserable in the process, and then you're going to resent the person that you basically bent yourself into a pretzel in order to please in the first place, and that's not healthy either. So let's get into this guy's email. He says, hey, Coach, I've been going out with this girl for a little over 4 months. The problem is I'm an exchange student and I will be leaving her country next month. Initially, I said I would stay until next year as I signed a work contract for 1 year over here. Unfortunately, the job sucks and the pay is terrible. He says, I decided to break the contract, go back home, and finish school. But after telling her this, she broke down and cried. Well, obviously, she wants you to stay, and it's upsetting to her. And then plus the fact that you told her that you were going to stay, and now you're in essence having to go back on your word. But she also wouldn't want you to stay working in a job and make yourself miserable, because that would affect the quality of your relationship as well, and you'd ultimately end up resenting her for the fact that you didn't follow what your heart compelled you to do in order to make her happy. And she's not going to, deep down, even though she says she doesn't want you to do that, she's not going to be happy when you do something other than what you want to do regarding your purpose and your mission in life. Sometimes you have to make those decisions, even if it means a woman says, hey, I'm going to leave you, I'm not going to support you. And then you say, well, I love you, I wish you would support me, but I understand if that doesn't work for you. He says, she told me that she had thought of marrying me. She introduced me to her older brother. The first time she ever introduced her boyfriend to a family member, she said, who married apparently his brother, he married his wife after the two of them met in Canada and dated for only 3 months, and she said she wanted to try long distance. I said we should try it. She was a little rude to me when I met her brother and his wife, so I told her over text the next day that she needs to show respect, especially in front of family members, if she wants a lasting and loving relationship. Good job. That's exactly what you needed to do. You needed to set your boundaries. And she's probably obviously been out of shape and still hurt and upset that you're leaving, but at the end of the day, I found personally in my own life, when you do what's going to make you happy, ultimately that's what they really want you to do anyways, is what's going to make you happy. Because if you do something and you make yourself miserable, that's definitely going to affect the quality of your relationship. He says, she said sorry, and I said thank you, and I'll see you soon, but she hasn't gotten back to me for a couple of days. He says, anyways, I'm most concerned with the fact that I lied to her by telling her I would stay in the country another year. It's not so much that you purposely deceived her, it's just that at the time you probably told her that, you didn't know that that job was going to suck and that the pay was going to suck as bad as it did. And you're just doing something that's going to make you happy, because ultimately at the end of the day, if you're single right now and you want to get into a relationship, for those guys and gals that are watching this that are single, you've got to get to a place where you're happy with yourself. You're happy with your life. You love your life. You enjoy your life. You enjoy and love the people that are in your life. The idea is you're happy, whole, and complete, and successful on your own. And it's nice and romantic, you see in movies like Jerry Maguire, You Complete Me. It's like that's basically when someone comes from that perspective, they're in essence saying, okay, well, I'm going to be happy and complete and whole as long as you're in my life and as long as you do what I expect you to do. But the way life is that very often most people will not meet the expectations that you expect of them. And so if you've put your happiness to be dependent upon another person and then they don't meet your expectations, well, guess what? Then you're going to be unhappy and upset. Whereas two people come together, two complete people, to share their completeness, because their cup is running over, so to speak. They already have a lot of happiness and they have a great life as it is, but they'd love to have somebody to share their complete life with so they can enjoy one another, but not complete the other person. Because what you're basically saying is, I feel like I'm inadequate in some way. I'm missing something. There's a part of me missing that you have, and unless I have what I need from you, I can't be happy. And relationships that come from that perspective are never going to work, because the other person, it's just human nature. We're constantly going to do and say things, because we're not mind readers, that are not going to meet the other person's expectations. And you've probably heard me say, and I wrote about in my book, the whole purpose of all relationships, not just your intimate ones, but your friendships and the business relationships that you have, you go there to give. You're there to give your gifts and your talent and your skills and your presence, and vice versa. The whole reason why you get into a relationship in the first place is to help each other grow and become more. And in this respect, even though unfortunately it means that you're not going to be able to stay in this particular country. Because I know like how it is in the United States, that if somebody comes over on a visa to work for a particular company, that company in essence sponsors them. But if they lose that job or they quit that job, they've got like, I think it's like 90 days, maybe longer. I can't remember. It's been a while since I had a gal that was from another country that we were looking at that situation. But it's like unless you have another company that comes in and sponsors you, you have to leave. You can't legally stay there. Now, you can stay there and try and get away with it, but if they catch you, like in the United States, you're not allowed to come back in the country for a whole decade. So he says, I don't know what to do. Should I apologize? I know she was disrespectful because she is hurt, but how can I fix that? That tells me you're very intuitive and you understand. Maybe you've been following my work for a while, or maybe you already kind of naturally know this stuff. But it's very good that you're picking up on the fact that she's hurt, and probably the way she was bitchy towards you is because you're not doing what you said you were going to do. But at the end of the day, you're choosing something that's going to make you happier in the long run. And part of what she's doing is testing you, much like Russell Crowe's character's wife was doing. I think it was Renee Zellweger who played his wife in that particular movie, much like she was doing. And at the end of the day, being submissive is a feminine quality, not a masculine quality. And if you've been following my work for a while, most of the situation where guys run into trouble in their relationships with women is they stop acting like a man is supposed to act. And I've got an analogy I want to share with you. Because you want to think of like women, because they're more emotional beings, is more kind of like Mother Nature. It's like even like the native Indian tribes all over the world. They used to say Mother Earth and Father Sky. And so when you look at, there's a chapter in my book where I talk about the man needs to be her rock. He needs to be her mountain. Well, when you look at that in nature, the mountain is just there. It's always there. It's always stable. You never see the mountain running after the wind or running after the rain, or Mother Nature, so to speak. It's the wind blows around the mountain or over the mountain. And it doesn't matter if it's a beautiful sunny day out, or it's cloudy and rainy, and there's a tornado, or there's hail coming down, or there's snow coming down. And it's like, just like women emotionally from one minute to the next can go from being very happy to being very upset or being very hurt. If you've ever been in a relationship with a woman, that's kind of the way they are. They're emotional beings. And so what you see in nature is like the wind and the rain goes around the mountain or over the mountain. You don't see the mountain is just there. It's a rock. It's always there. It's always hard. Kind of like when you're having sex. Obviously, you're hard. She feels your strength. And so sometimes, even though she says, hey, I'm going to leave you if you don't do this, this, and this, well, if it's not aligned with your core goals and values, you have to say, baby, it's going to break my heart that you're going to leave, but I have to do this because this is my mission. This is my purpose in life. And if I was to not do this, then I'm going to make myself miserable. And if I make myself miserable, then I'm not going to be a very good boyfriend or husband to you anyways. And sometimes, because women bluff to test your strength. If it's something to do with your mission and your purpose, like in this particular case that it is, you have to do it. Obviously, now if you've got kids and you're married, you can't just say, hey, babe, I'm out of here. I'm going to shave my head and move to Tibet and meditate for the next decade. And good luck with the family and everything. Obviously, you can't. It's not the right thing to do that because you have responsibilities. But at the end of the day, a man has to follow his purpose and his mission in life. And if you have a good, healthy relationship with your woman, she'll submit and go along with it, even if she protests at first. It's much in the same way when a soldier wants to go off to war and the wife's like, no, I don't want you to go. She knows deep down it's his duty. He has to go. That's what being a man is all about. So if you've got a question or a challenge that you'd like to get my help with personally, the quickest way to get my help is to book a paid phone coaching session or Skype session, and you can do that through my website by going and clicking the products tab, which will be at the top of your screen on my website, and just follow the instructions. And I will talk to you soon.